name's Lulu
and Lala.
and in case you didn't know, we actually are, you hear us every night on iHeart's 103.5 KTU, the beat of New York, from 7 to midnight. And you're probably wondering, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about 2020. Yeah, this is our new little blog on YouTube called Live in Love with Lulu and Lala. And you're probably also wondering, why are we talking about 2020 when we're already in March, practically end of March? Well, it's because we've needed time to adjust and cope because our 2020, it didn't end the way that we expected. It was actually a nightmare, and so we've needed time to cope and adjust and figure out what happened, why did it happen, how did it happen, and those questions are still ongoing. So let's just get to it. 2020, at least for me, Lulu, I thought it was going to be the year of me traveling, experiencing life, and finally out of a relationship, I could just do me. You know how they say, do you, boo-boo? And it was 2020, 2020 vision. It was a good number. So there was hope. At the beginning of the year, I had all these plans. I had laid out my calendar of all the different places I was going to go and things that I wanted to accomplish. And then the pandemic hit. And although there was a lot of people obviously passed away, getting sick and dealing with the lockdowns and all that, there was some good to it. Well, before we even get into that, when the pandemic hit and we were told we needed to leave the radio station, and that was even like a horror movie because we're about to start on air and our boss comes in saying, you need to get the hell up out of the studio because we're going to bomb the studio. How do you react to that? So we're like, wait, but what about our show? What about our show? It was like a scene out of a movie, but it just, at that moment, you realize how serious this, reality hit, this is for real. This isn't just what the news is saying. This is get out because you can get sick. Yeah. So nobody really knew much about the virus back then in March, actually. A whole year went by. So we didn't really know, how real is this? Is the media exaggerating? So needless to say, we began broadcasting our show at home. Now we thought, oh my God, we don't even have to dress up. This is going to be amazing. We're home. But it had a few ups and downs. That our dog likes to bark whenever he feels like it. He does not let us work. Why is he crying? We've taken you out. We've given you food. We've played with you. There was a lot of echo in the room that we were in. So forget about the echo. We live with our parents. Yes, we still do. And my mom would be watching las novelas or talking on the phone, not realizing that the mics are hot. And my mom's talking. Lala's playing with the dog because he won't stop working. Do you hear the phone call? Get the phone. No, it's okay. We're not doing the show. No. It's okay. Everything she's saying, people could hear on the whole tri-state could listen in.
Where is it going?
Clearly, we are broadcasting from our home live. It's 103.5 KTU, the beat of New York. The twins, Lulu and Lala. Ma, he's in the backyard. I'm working here. Those were a few bumps, but one of the good stuff that came out of this pandemic is it had been so long since we had dinner with our parents. I forgot what it was to actually sit down at a dinner table and have dinner with them and talk to them and actually even see how quirky my parents are with one another. Yeah, the thing is we had opposite schedules. Mom and Dad would work during the day like regular human beings do. We had the night shift. So while they were working, we were here alone. Then we'd go off to work, and by the time we came back, everyone's sleeping because our shift ends at midnight. So I guess the positive thing is that family to us has always been a priority, and we got to spend more time. We got to see more of our nieces. We got to spend more time with our grandmother. Before, it was only really the weekends when we would go see her, and now we were able to go during the day and hang out with her. I think one of the negative things, which there were a lot of in 2020, was the fact the period of the uncertainty. What do we do? How do we move forward? How can we help out? Can we do anything to help out? We were stuck in a rut between March all the way until the whole year, really. Pretty much, yeah, because you're here and luckily we were still working. A lot of people lost their jobs, but we felt kind of helpless. What more can we do? All right, social-wise, what can we do socially? going out into the streets, we're scared because we don't want to get sick. We live with our parents, and we don't want to be selfish and be out and about. It was just, we felt like useless.
Yeah, it was. I feel like a lot of people felt like that. Like there isn't much.
Are we doing enough? Is my boss happy? Is he tuning in? Are we saying the right things?
Are we doing
being
too
insensitive?
much? Yeah, we didn't even know how to play it out on the radio. Do we talk about it?
Do we not talk about
Then
it?
the political unrest that was going on, do we talk about that? We've never been into politics. I think that's a personal matter that everyone,
and there was so much of politics on radio, on the news. If you wanted to listen to that, you knew where to go. We didn't really want to talk about it because we felt like it was everywhere.
The thing is, we're happy people. We don't like talking negative. So with the politics and the virus, everything out there was just so negative. So we were like, we made the what's the word?
The decision, the pact to like kind of stay away from all that and just be happy
ourselves
and be very like
and talk about exactly.
Which, by the way, we even got backlash on our social media because people felt we weren't saying
talking
enough about politics. We weren't saying enough about the virus. So we were damned either way.
Yeah. So those were some of the good and the bads, and then we get into the real bad. And so my take at the beginning was, I don't want to wear this freaking mask. It's stupid. There's not enough information. It's annoying. I'm asthmatic. This is giving me trouble, breathing. But then, after a while,
you just deal with it, and you realize, okay, that's what needs to be done.
One of the hardest things for us was during the mist, like the March, the bad part of the pandemic.
March, April, May.
We couldn't see our grandmother.
So we were very careful to how we go visit her, if we go visit her,
Well, we weren't even allowed in the building. When we wanted to bring her to the house, she was always a very independent person. She didn't want this. She wanted to stay in her apartment, in her space. So for months, we couldn't go see her. We'd drive, and from the outside, we'd say hello. She'd go to the window, and we'd say hi. Te quiero mucho. And then when we finally were able to go in, we were very careful. We had our masks, we had gloves, we
hand sanitizer,
kept our distance.
We did everything we could to keep her as safe as possible. And then comes November. And
we thought everything was kind of dimming down, but in reality, for us, is when hell broke loose.
It was like I feel like it was this black cloud that came over the family and just swept all through. Because we all ended up getting sick with the coronavirus. I mean, we didn't really have
symptoms.
Any symptoms. We only had headaches. We couldn't smell. We couldn't taste, which was kind of funny because we almost burned down our kitchen because we couldn't smell anything. When I turn around, the kitchen wall is up in flames, and if I don't turn around, the house would have burned down. But we didn't have like fever, cough. We didn't really have those symptoms. But
thank God we didn't get it as bad as a lot of other people.
But everyone, us, my dad, my mom, my nieces, my sister, my aunt.
Which to me doesn't make any sense because we didn't go anywhere. We'd go to the supermarket and back. We weren't out in bars or restaurants. We didn't go anywhere. So.
And we became like super paranoid. We went off and bought UV lights. We bought this spray that the hospitals use to spray down the house and disinfect.
Which we still use.
We were able to get our hands on Lysol and disinfecting wipes.
But getting back to the worst of it was, come November, like we said, we don't know where this came out of.
My grandmother gets sick.
And the day that my grandmother is taken to the hospital is the day that I bring my mother down to the basement because she had the COVID-19
too. But it was like kind of like when someone like punches you in the stomach. Because it was the fear that we all had throughout this whole time where you don't want her to get sick. She's 94 years old. She has high blood pressure. She had cancer. She had a lot of things going against her. And we knew, and from what we saw in the news, a person that age, once they go into the hospital, they don't come out. So
it was a punch to the stomach when we had to bring her to the hospital. But being the positive people that we are, we thought, all right, they're going to go in, they're going to give her whatever it is, the medicine that they're going to give her.
You always have that faith that...
And she's going to come out. And she came out not the way that we thought she was going to come out. And if we get a little emotional.
So, so obviously she passed away the 14th of December. And it was the whole process, like the last 2 weeks was so hard because it's not like we couldn't be there with her, which a lot of people go through that. A lot of people who had
throw the paper.
A lot of people who had their loved ones in the hospital, you couldn't see them, you couldn't be there to hold their hand, you couldn't be there to tell them, hey, it's gonna be fine. You just really had to trust on the nurses and the doctors and the staff there that they were really taking care of your loved one, of your grandmother.
And here's the thing, like she said, we couldn't see her. It wasn't until the very end, they actually gave us the opportunity to do a Zoom with her. But prior to that, she would call us and she would be pleading and begging for help. Help me, I can't breathe. Help me, tell the doctors to put more oxygen in me. And she was already at max. So to get those phone calls at nighttime and during the day, a 94-year-old lady who's been there for your whole life and you can't help, you can't do anything, you can't run to the hospital, there's nothing you can do but trust and have faith that the nurses and doctors are doing what they can, was hard. Just thinking of her little voice screaming and pleading for help.
And then would call the doctors. And it was just, those 2 weeks was just really, really tough. And it was tough on us. It was tough on my mom. It was tough on my aunts that, And
I feel like for a while I had anger because I know that the nurses and the doctors were doing everything possible. But deep down inside of me, I have this sense of like guilt because I wasn't there to see what they were doing. And I know that they were doing the best that they could, but I wasn't there. So I'm never going to know what went down.
And it's true. You never know. Are they checking in on her every so often? Or are they giving her water? Are they, at least trying to pet her arm, making her feel good? We don't know that, but I do want to I'm very grateful for all the nurses and doctors at Englewood Hospital that took good care of her and they were doing everything they can. I know it wasn't easy because it was the hospital was jam-packed with patients and, it is hard. And
I want to also thank Luis Alzate. He was a good friend of mine that I graduated high school with, and he always gave me that reassurance like, hey, they're doing the best they can. I'm a doctor. I know I'm going through it too. I'm treating the people.
Our friend Monica, who had a friend that works at NYU, she spoke to us a lot and made us feel good about everything that they were doing to our grandmother. And I remember that I have to be grateful because I was able to say goodbye to my grandmother. A lot of people didn't even have that option. It was just, okay, they passed away and then off to go get cremated. They couldn't even give their loved ones a proper funeral. They couldn't even see them, speak to them. We were able to get on a Zoom call the day before.
And even that was tough. Because in that Zoom call, she looked very, she looked happy because she was able to see us. But at the same time, she was also telling us, help me.
And she had such a will to live. Like she's 94 and she was still fighting to keep living.
So the night after that, they give us the call saying, hey,
her oxygen is dropping.
If you're gonna come see her, this is the only time you have.
But they only allowed 4 people. That's it. So we had to figure out, okay, who's gonna go. So my mom and my aunt,
and my 2 aunts that live here,
and then out of the cousins, I was able to go up there and see her. And she was 94. She has COVID. She's got cancer, high blood pressure. Her face looked good, like she looked cute actually, but it was the hardest thing to go in there and look at her and pretend like we're gonna see her again because they told us to just stay positive and not act like she's dying. Don't scare her.
You were dressed up in this
I had to go see her. I looked like an astronaut to go see her. I couldn't really touch her. They told us not to, and she's just in this room by herself, which she's been in for, I don't know, for like 4 weeks. It must have been hard. It's hard for the people that they're in the hospital alone. You don't know what's going on in the outside world. You don't even know how your health is doing. You have to just trust on what the doctors and nurses are doing. But, I'm happy that I got to say bye to her. She was able to talk to me, and then I was able to make her laugh one last time. And I was the last face last familiar face that she saw, because once we left the room, we weren't allowed to go back in.
I didn't have that. I didn't get to say bye. The only time I got to say bye to her was on that Zoom call. So that's the only image that I have of her struggling to pleading for help. So I just wonder, like, she was alone. Did she die alone? Was there anybody in there with her?
Yeah, there was a nurse that was there in her last
That's
moments.
not
But
how I envisioned her, that she was going to go. She was such a hardworking woman. She went through hell and back. She had deserved to be with her family, and she wasn't. She was alone with a stranger.
And then, of course, that's where the guilt comes in. Did we do enough? Should we have taken her to the hospital? What else can we have done?
Should we have let her stay home
and be there at home? So many questions that you go over in your head, and you torture yourself with the what ifs and the could haves, and what more could we have done? And that's why we kind of like went dark during the holidays, because I had so much anger in me, and then I started seeing the social media people out and about
partying it up like there's no
masks,
pandemic going on,
and I'm like, how selfish can humans be? Like, is this what it is nowadays? Like, what happened to the days when people actually cared for one another? Because it's a simple thing as to just wearing a mask. They're not asking you to work under 100-degree weather.
Though. It's being mindful. If you're gonna go out and be stupid and reckless and party it up, and you know you're gonna come back to a house where your parents live or your grandparents or other people, be responsible. Like, don't be so selfish.
And
think of the people around you, because you don't know how their health system, like how their body is.
And then it comes to the point, like, what matters? You know, like, I remember before my grandmother passed away, I was stressing about work. What do I post on social media? This picture, how many likes does it get? Did it get good engagement? Are the clients happy? Are my bosses watching? All these things. And I'm like, none of that. None of the likes, none of the engagement, none of the pictures I post, none of any of this crap on social media is going to bring my grandmother back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, like, I stressed out over all this other bullshit.
Needless
that
to
doesn't
say,
matter.
our priorities have changed in life. We see things way different than how things were before. I don't stress out as much as I used to over little things, because I do think of the stuff that my grandmother used to say. She was always positive. She never held any grudge against anybody. And ironically,
right before she passed away, my aunt, Tia Odi, was writing a book
about her life.
My grandmother actually narrates the book, and we are happy. She was able to see the book before she passed away. She was able to actually hold it in her hands. And
it's called Heart of Honor. And we definitely would want you guys to, we're going to put the link below so you guys can click on it, and you can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it.
And just read it. She has a very interesting story. It tells her story about how she came from Cuba, how my grandfather actually had to leave Cuba,
the way that he escaped, and it's just,
and everything that my grandmother had to endure in her life. She was a hardworking woman, the strongest woman that I know, and she lived a very happy life. So many people loved her, and we just want to thank all the fans that were with us, that have been following us. Once we posted our picture, that, you know, we let our
fans know that Mima had passed away. The love that we got was overwhelming, and I think that made it even more emotional to see that people do care and people do tune in. They used to remember when we used to post her up on social media and stuff. So,
and they could tell like what great soul she had.
So pick up Heart of Honor. It is the book that Mima wrote. She narrates it. And
this is actually the picture of my grandfather, and in the book there is pictures at the end.
It's a love story.
It's a love story.
Honestly, this book is a love story of how they met and everything that they went through together in life. And that's I can't believe that it's actually there. So thank you to Tia Odi and Nelson who made this possible. And thank you guys once again for always tuning in and being such loyal fans to us. It does go. We notice everything, so thank you.
We try and hope that we bring joy to your lives, just like you bring joy to our life.
And this first episode
is dedicated to Mima.
It's a tribute to Mima, and it was supposed to be something else, but I think she deserves it. So thank you. I hope that you have enjoyed
Live in love with Lulu and Lala. Next episode, we're gonna tell you a little bit more of like how we even became
Lulu and Lala.
and how we started in radio. How did we get here? So I hope you guys stick around.
Just so
because
you
it's
know
gonna be fun.
a little bit more about us. This is more about where we came, where our journey, where we've been through, and where we're gonna go. And you guys are gonna be part of it. So, again,
Sorry for the tears, but you know, you get emotional. I'm good. I'm good. But yes.
Look, I'm wearing the ring Mima gave me and the watch. So,
Kisses. I swear, I told myself I wasn't gonna cry.
Soy una persona que he vivido siempre pensando que yo no soy mejor que nadie, pero que no hay nadie mejor que yo tampoco.
Amén, amén, amén.
cumpliendo 93 años, mira qué linda está, preciosa.
¿Cuál es el secreto, Mima? El secreto es, pues vivir contenta, vivir feliz,